What are the roles of teachers unions in this? Like, I know especially in California, teachers union is incredibly strong. What are their positions on this? What are they saying?
Yeah, in California, the teachers union spearheaded the whole thing and built the statewide coalition, really put the rubber to the road. You know, for them, the main thing is stopping furlough days. But the teachers unions have united with other groups on campus, like SDS and stuff like that, that also want to fight against fee hikes. And you know, they have an approach of, you know, a broad coalition. And I think without it, it's very hard to move this struggle forward without getting all of the interested parties involved. You know? And it's a good thing in California that the teachers union has really spearheaded the struggle.
But their teachers unions don't get the same sort of retributive action that other states would, especially right-to-work states. So states where you don't, like in Utah, you don't have to have a reason to fire somebody. So if you're in a union, or you speak up, or you are seen in some sort of revolutionary students union meeting or something like that, I mean, there is a fear that you could lose your job, your livelihood.
There's always a fear, but when your head's already on the chopping block, then it doesn't matter anymore.
Yes.
You know, it's true. You know, right-to-work states like North Carolina and Utah haven't seen these kind of big struggles, and there's a real reason. You know, it's these unions that build coalitions with students and vice versa that are carrying this stuff forward. So that's why you see California as the big center of struggle, but also the Rust Belt and the union-dense Northeast. You know, so.
Because unions are, I mean, they can't fire them for being in a union.
Right. They're already organized, and they're, you know, in most cases, in some cases, they're ready to fight.
So what are the most effective strategies that have been most successful in getting the demands met of both the students and the teachers?
Well, you know, all these are ongoing campaigns, and none of them have won all their demands. But you know, that's the thing. Steadily building ongoing campaigns based on, you know, mobilizing you know, as many people as you can unite as possible, advancing tactics as necessary. You know, so where we've seen the most successes, there have been started off with organizing meetings to get people together, to have teach-ins, to educate each other on the crisis and how it affects everyone, speak-outs and rallies. Then they'll have marches, and then from the marches, sometimes it advances to occupation of buildings. And while the occupation of buildings doesn't always win the demands that they're going for, what it does is it kind of galvanizes people. And it gets into the media, it gets into people's consciousness in a way that it doesn't otherwise. So all those things are important. I know one student group that was talking about their chancellor. She has a you know, huge multi-million-dollar mansion, and they were talking about going and sticking foreclosure signs in the yard and having a big rally there. I think that's a good idea to get people's attention and get people focused on it.
I have a ton more questions.
That's
So, all right. Okay. What's happening to all the marijuana revenue that they're getting in California? Because medicinal marijuana is taking off like a weed, right? So they're making a ton of money. They're making a ton of money. Where is all of that going? Is it hidden because we don't want to say it could actually pull us out of this economic crisis, or what? I want to know where that money is going.
I don't know the answer. There's another initiative in California to like fully legalize marijuana.
Yeah,
and
completely decriminalizing.
Yeah, and that money could very well, some of it be earmarked for education, but I think it would be going through sort of privatized channels. I'm not sure of that.
I just get, because they say that they're in a budget crisis, and Utah, I mean, they're increasing our tuition as well. The only tax increase that they did this year was on cigarette smokers, raising our tax on cigarettes $1 a pack. But they're still increasing our fees even though we have a rainy day fund.
Mhm.
So we have the money. Our state has the money to fund education.
So if you look at the University of California system, you know, and you look at where the fee hikes, where it's going, you know, where would you think it would go? You know, there's all this extra money for student fees going into the UC system as they raise the fees. Where would you think that would go?
Vacations, apparently.
No, it goes into, the vast majority of it goes into new construction.
Buildings?
Yep. And the reason is, in these moves to privatize the University of California system, you know, what they need are donors. And the way you get these donors is you build a new building that nobody needs, and then the donor gives so much money to the school that goes for who knows what, and then
Put their name on the outside.
yeah, then their name goes on the outside. So these, you know, rich assholes are building a legacy for themselves. You know, and meanwhile, they get some say, you know, in what's going on. You know, the Board of Regents in California is not elected. They're not educators. They're corporate leaders who are appointed by the governor. You know.
And do they decide what goes into the textbooks?
I don't know, but they certainly do decide how those textbooks and stuff get allocated into the system, into the school system.
Is there going to be like a danger, more appropriate involvement? For instance, like in the past, we've had companies like Coca-Cola or Hershey's donating to schools in order to get their vending machines put into school. Are we going to see like an increase of this, or even branching out to other forms, like, you know, your school sponsored by Sony?
Absolutely.
Or by like having a hoagie yogi in your school because they donate money. Or what are these, Sparrows pizza? I don't know.
Or they'll buy a spot on the Board of Regents
Or a job.
and get to decide everything.
Do you see this crisis as, do you see that basically corporate interests using this crisis to basically dismember public education, sell it off so it counts as an income, and then since they don't have to pay for the education ostensibly, it gets rid of the deficit so they can pretend that the privatization brought in a lot of money when really they're just dismembering the infrastructure? Do you see that as likely to happen?
That's what's happening. You know, it's the corporatization and privatization of the school system. It's happening in sly, sort of around the corner ways, but that's what's going on, especially in California.
Well, and you're saying like you want not only access to education, but like a high quality of education. But what I see in teaching and seeing students every day is that they don't know any history other than like George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. And I mean, they know about a lot of wealthy, powerful white men, but other than that, I mean, even basics, what our Constitution says, they don't know it. They don't know it, and it's because it's not taught.
Yeah.
History after like 1945, history after the Second World War is pretty much non-existent
Right.
for a lot of students.
Right.
They're going to college and they're just for the first time hearing about what happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, how do we get better information? How do we get better history classes? How do we get more diversity into education?
More socialism.
That would be a big step in the right direction. But in the meanwhile, you know, the more the schools are privatized, the more private interests control what goes on in higher education and what's supposed to be public education, especially. You know, that's just going to get worse and worse. The first step is to fight back against the further privatization and corporatization of the school
But
system.
aren't all of our textbooks really coming from the same place? I mean, McGraw-Hill makes everything. You buy them from the bookstore at incredibly inflated prices and then try and return them for not very much money, so you get ripped off that way too. Plus, the information in them is all the same information. It's all the same stuff, and it's not, I mean, that part already is, so what can we do about it now?